In the 1970s, a decade often remembered for its flared trousers, disco beats, and a certain optimism tempered by economic hiccups, people managed to navigate the complexities of daily life without the digital crutches we rely on today. No smartphones buzzing with notifications, no GPS whispering directions in your ear, no instant access to endless information via a quick search. Yet, somehow, society functions smoothly, or at least as smoothly as any era does. Problems arose, as they always do, and solutions were found through ingenuity, patience, and a healthy dose of human interaction. It's almost quaint to think about now, like recalling a time when fixing a broken appliance didn't involve watching a YouTube tutorial while muttering about planned obsolescence. Consider navigation. For starters, getting from point A to point B in the 1970s required actual planning, the kind that involved spreading out a large, unwieldy paper map on the kitchen table the night before a trip. Road atlases, like the ubiquitous Rand McNally versions, were essential companions in every car glove compartment. Drivers would trace routes with a finger or a highlighter, noting mile markers and highway interchanges. If you were heading somewhere unfamiliar, you'd jot down directions provided by a friend over the phone or, in a pinch, stop at a gas station to ask the attendant. Those full-service spots where someone would pump your gas, check your oil, and offer local advice without expecting a tip beyond a thank you. Getting lost was a real possibility, of course, leading to unintended detours that sometimes turned into memorable adventures, or at least stories to tell later. "We ended up in the wrong state once," people would say with a chuckle, "but we found this great diner along the way." Today, we'd recalculate the route in seconds. Back then, it built character, or so the elders claim. Communication, too, had its own rhythm, slower and more deliberate. Landline telephones were the lifeline, often shared among family members in a single household, with one phone perched on a wall or table, its cord limiting your pacing to a small circle during long chats. Long-distance calls were a luxury, reserved for special occasions because they cost a pretty penny per minute. Operators would even assist if you needed to place a collect call. For everyday connections, people relied on face-to-face interactions or handwritten letters. Posting a letter meant licking a stamp, literally, and trusting the postal service to deliver it in a few days. Teenagers passed notes in class, folded into intricate shapes to avoid detection, conveying gossip or crushes with far more anticipation than a text message today. Socializing happened in person, knocking on a neighbor's door unannounced, gathering at community events, or simply hanging out on front porches. Parties were planned weeks in advance via invitations mailed or phoned, and showing up late without notice was forgivable because, well, there was no way to send a quick, running behind, update. It fostered a certain politeness, or perhaps just resignation. No ghosting possible when avoidance required actual effort. Entertainment in the 1970s was a communal or solitary affair, but rarely on demand. Television dominated evenings, with families clustering around a single set, often a bulky console model with rabbit ear antennas adjusted for better reception. There were only a handful of channels, so primetime shows like All in the Family or The Mary Tyler Moore Show became cultural events everyone discussed the next day. If you missed an episode, tough luck. You'd wait for reruns or hear spoilers from friends. Radio filled the gaps, with AM/FM stations playing the hits, disco, rock, or soul, while drivers sang along or listened to talk shows. For home audio, vinyl records on turntables were king, carefully placed on the needle to avoid scratches, and 8-track tapes ruled car stereos, though they had a habit of switching tracks mid-song at the most dramatic moment. Movies meant going to the theater, complete with double features and intermissions for popcorn refills, or the emerging drive-in for a more private experience. Board games like Monopoly or Scrabble brought families together on rainy days, and kids amused themselves outdoors with bikes, balls, or imaginative play. No screens required. Reading was huge. Libraries were bustling hubs where you'd browse card catalogs, those wooden drawers full of index cards, to find books, or pore over encyclopedias at home for school projects. The absence of instant streaming meant entertainment built patience. Waiting for the Saturday morning cartoons felt like a reward. When it came to seeking information, The 1970s rewarded the curious and the persistent. Libraries were the original search engines, staffed by knowledgeable librarians who could guide you through the Dewey Decimal System to the exact shelf. Encyclopedias, like the multi-volume Britannica sets sold door-to-door, sat proudly in living rooms for quick lookups on everything from history to science. Newspapers and magazines provided daily or weekly doses of news, delivered to your doorstep or picked up at a newsstand, with people clipping articles for reference. For specialized knowledge, you'd consult experts, calling a local store for product details, asking a teacher after class, or even writing to companies for brochures. Phone books, the thick yellow pages for businesses and white pages for residents, were indispensable for finding phone numbers or addresses. Directory assistants, dialing 411, connected you to an operator if needed, though it cost extra. Trivia nights at pubs thrived because arguments over facts couldn't be settled instantly. Instead, they'd linger until someone consulted a book the next day. This era cultivated a respect for verified sources, even if it meant occasional debates went unresolved. Home repairs and everyday fixes leaned heavily on do-it-yourself ethos, born of necessity in an age when appliances were built to last but still broke down. Without online forums or video guides, people turned to repair manuals that came with products, or popular books like those from Reader's Digest on household tips. Neighbors shared knowledge freely, borrowing tools or advice over the fence, and hardware stores employed staff who could diagnose issues on the spot. Basic skills were common: changing a flat tire with a jack and spare from the trunk, sewing a torn seam by hand, or troubleshooting a flickering TV by adjusting the vertical hold knob. For bigger jobs, you'd call a professional listed in the yellow pages, but many opted to learn through trial and error. Gadgets like the newly popular microwave ovens or VCRs, which emerged late in the decade, came with thick instruction books, and programming a VCR to record a show was a rite of passage, often involving flashing 12 o'clock clocks that mocked your efforts. Waste not, want not was the mindset. Mending clothes, canning food from gardens, or repurposing items kept budgets in check. Social connections thrived on proximity and effort. Without social media, friendships were maintained through regular visits, phone calls, or club meetings. Think bowling leagues, book clubs, or church groups. Dating involved asking someone out in person or via a mutual friend introduction, with blind dates arranged over coffee. Communities felt tighter because news traveled by word of mouth, a neighborhood barbecue to catch up, or kids playing freely until streetlights came on. Long-distance relationships relied on aerograms or cassette tapes sent in the mail, recording voices to bridge gaps. Pen pals were popular, especially among youth, fostering global awareness without screens. Even boredom was managed creatively, daydreaming during commutes or inventing games, building resilience in ways that endless scrolling might undermine today. Health and wellness issues were addressed more holistically, often without instant symptom checkers. Doctors were consulted via appointments booked by phone, and advice came from family recipes or trusted magazines like Good Housekeeping. Jogging boomed as a fad, with people hitting parks in simple sneakers, and home remedies, like chicken soup for colds or baking soda for indigestion, were staples. Mental stress was eased through walks in nature, reading, or talking it out with friends over coffee, rather than apps tracking moods. Shopping and finances had their own analog charm. Groceries meant lists handwritten after checking pantry stocks, with trips to markets where you chat with butchers or cashiers. Catalogs from Sears or Montgomery Ward allowed mail-order shopping, waiting weeks for deliveries that felt like Christmas. Banking involved branches, tellers, and passbooks updated by hand. No ATMs yet for most. Balancing checkbooks was a monthly ritual, teaching fiscal discipline the hard way. Travel, whether local or far, demanded foresight. Plane tickets were bought through agents, with paper confirmations, and road trips planned with motel guides like those from AAA, which also provided free maps to members. Hitchhiking was common for the adventurous, though not without risks that became more apparent later. In reflecting on the 1970s, it's clear that problems were solved not with algorithms but with resourcefulness, community, and a tolerance for imperfection. People talked more directly, read deeply, and fixed things themselves, fostering skills that felt empowering. Of course, it wasn't utopia. Delays frustrated, misinformation spread unchecked at times, and isolation could hit harder without constant connectivity. Yet, there's a subtle humor in how we managed, arguing over maps in the car, waiting anxiously by the phone for a callback, or triumphantly recording a TV show without the clock blinking eternally. These methods built patience and real-world savvy, qualities that, in our hyper-connected age, might occasionally make us yearn for a simpler unplugging. After all, solving problems without technology didn't make life harder. It just made us more engaged in it. The era's approach to challenges extended to education and learning. School research meant library hours, note cards for bibliographies, and typewriters for papers, complete with correction fluid for errors. No copy-paste, everything was retyped if revised. This deliberate process ingrained thoroughness. In workplaces, without email, memos were typed and circulated, meetings scheduled via calendars, and collaboration happened in rooms rather than virtual ones. Productivity came from focused blocks, interrupted only by coffee breaks. Even cooking relied on recipe boxes filled with clippings or handed-down cards, experimenting without instant reviews. Meals were planned around sales flyers from newspapers. Parenting involved more unsupervised play, with kids resolving disputes themselves on playgrounds, learning negotiation sans parental apps tracking locations. Emergencies meant payphones or flagging help. Seatbelts were optional early on, but community watchfulness filled gaps. Ultimately, the 1970s demonstrated that human ingenuity thrives without constant tech intervention. Problems persisted: traffic jams, broken hearts, flat tires. But solutions came from within networks of people, books, and hands-on effort. It's a reminder that while technology solves many issues swiftly, the old ways cultivated a certain grit, laced with the occasional laugh at our own fumbling persistence. Perhaps that's the real hack, relying on ourselves and each other first.